There's something most people don't understand about saying enough. Something deep. Something that changes everything. It's not just a word. It's an act of power. The truth about saying enough. People say, I can't leave. I can't go. I can't say no. But what does that really mean? Jung discovered, it's not that you can't. It's that you're afraid of what will happen if you do. Fear of loss, fear of loneliness, fear of guilt. But here's what you don't see. The cost of not saying enough is greater than the cost of saying it. Alexander's story. Alexander came to see me after 10 years in a toxic job. It's killing me, he said, but I can't leave. I asked, what's stopping you? The money, the security. What if I don't find anything better? But that wasn't all. And my boss, Alexander said, he'll make me feel guilty. He'll say I'm betraying him. There it was. It wasn't the money. It was the fear of guilt. How much longer can you endure this? I asked. Alexander fell silent, then said, I can't. Not one more day. And that was the moment. The moment he decided to say enough. 3 months later, he had a new job. Better pay, better culture, better life. I can't believe I waited so long, he said. The energy that came back. It's like living again. The principle of enough. Jung taught, what you tolerate drains you. Every toxic relationship, every abusive situation, every compromise that betrays your soul, it drains you, your energy, your vitality, your life. And when you say enough, that energy returns. Not gradually, immediately. Why you don't say enough. There are 3 reasons you don't say it. Reason 1, fear of loss. You fear losing what you have. The relationship, the job, the friendship. Even if it's toxic, it's familiar. And familiar feels safe. Reason 2, guilt. You've been conditioned to feel guilty about setting boundaries. You're selfish. You're cruel. You're abandoning them. So you stay, not out of love, out of guilt. Reason 3, false hope. You hope it will change. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe this time will be different. Maybe if I do more. But it doesn't change. It never changes. Because it doesn't want to change. Victoria's story. Victoria had been in an abusive relationship for 5 years. I know I should leave, she said, but I love him. I asked, do you love who he is, or who you hope he'll be? Victoria fell silent. Who I hope he'll be, she finally admitted. And how long have you been hoping? 5 years. Has he changed? No. There was the truth. It wasn't love. It was false hope. What do you need to say enough? I asked. Courage, Victoria said, and believing I deserve better. 6 months later, she left the relationship. The first days were terrible, she said. But then, something changed. I felt energy, clarity, life. I realized I'd been dead for 5 years, and now I was alive again. The 5 signs it's time to say enough. Sign 1. You feel constantly drained. No matter how much you sleep, how much you rest, you're always exhausted because the situation is draining you. Sign 2. You've lost your joy. Things you used to love no longer matter. You feel numb, empty, dead inside. Sign 3. You betray yourself. You say yes when you want to say no. You do things that go against your values. You've lost yourself. Sign 4. Nothing changes. You've talked, you've asked, you've begged, but nothing changes because they don't want to change. Sign 5. You know inside. There's a voice inside you that knows, that says, "This isn't right. You need to leave." That voice is your wisdom. Listen to it. Richard and his family's story. Richard had a toxic family. "Every visit drains me," he said. "But they're my family. I can't just leave." I asked, "Why not?" Because they're family." "And does that mean you have to tolerate it?" Richard fell silent. "My whole life I've felt I have to please them, that I have to be who they want me to be." "And who are you really?" "I don't know. I've been pleasing them so long I lost myself." So Richard did something radical. He said, "Enough." He didn't cut contact completely, but he set boundaries. No more obligatory visits. No more toxic calls. No more betraying myself. At first they were angry, he said. They called me selfish, cruel. But I held firm. And something incredible happened. I came back to myself. The energy I'd been using to please them came back to me. The work of saying enough. Saying enough requires 3 things. Clarity. First, you must see clearly. This situation is toxic. It's draining me. I need to leave. Without clarity, you'll stay trapped in false hope. Courage. Second, you must find courage. Not the courage of having no fear, the courage to act despite fear. The fear will be there. Act anyway. Commitment. Third, you must commit. Not halfway, completely. Enough. It's over. No more. Sophia's story. Sophia had been in a toxic job for 8 years. Clarity. This job is killing me. I need to leave. Courage. I'm afraid, but I'll do it anyway. Commitment. I quit. Today. And she did. The first months were terrifying, Sophia said. I didn't have another job lined up. But something incredible happened. The energy I'd been using to survive that job was released. I started creating, dreaming, living. And 6 months later, I had my own business. It never would have happened if I hadn't said enough. The signs you're ready to say enough. How do you know if you're ready? Here are the signs. Sign 1. The pain of staying is greater than the fear of leaving. You've reached the breaking point. You can't take it anymore. Not one more day. Sign 2. You see clearly. You're no longer in denial. You see the situation as it is. Toxic, draining, unsustainable. Sign 3. You're willing to face the consequences. You know there will be consequences. Loss, pain, uncertainty. But you're willing, because the alternative is worse. When these 3 signs are present, you're ready. Now let me show you what happens after you say enough. The energy that returns. The life that begins. When you say enough, something changes instantly. Not gradually, immediately. First comes relief. The weight you've been carrying lifts. You can breathe again. Then comes fear. What have I done? What if I was wrong? What if I can't survive without this? This fear is normal. Expect it. After that comes grief. Even if the situation was toxic, you lose something, and you need to mourn that loss. Finally, energy comes. The energy you were using to endure the unendurable returns. And with it, life. Marcus's story after leaving his marriage. Marcus left a 15-year marriage. Phase 1. The first few days I felt incredible relief, like I could breathe for the first time in years. Then panic came. What have I done? How will I survive alone? Then grief. I cried, not for her, for the 15 years, for the dream that died. And then, energy. God, the energy. I started exercising, creating, living. I realized I was surviving. Now I'm alive. Energy 1. Physical energy. The first energy that returns is physical. You're no longer constantly exhausted. You sleep well, you eat well, you move well. Emotional energy. The second energy is emotional. You're no longer constantly emotionally drained. You feel joy again, passion, enthusiasm. Creative energy. The third energy is creative. You're no longer in survival mode. You can create, dream, build. Jennifer left a toxic corporate job. Physical energy returned first, she said. Suddenly I had energy to exercise, to cook, to live. Then emotional energy. I started feeling again, laughing, enjoying. And then creative energy. I started writing, something I hadn't done in 10 years. 6 months later, I published my first book. It never would have happened if I hadn't said, enough. Guilt is the biggest obstacle after saying, enough. Here's how to handle it. Step 1. Acknowledge the guilt. First, acknowledge that the guilt is there. I feel guilty. That's normal. Don't deny it. Acknowledge it. Step 2. Examine the source. Where does the guilt come from? Is it yours, or is it imposed? Often, the guilt isn't yours, it's conditioning. Step 3. Distinguish real guilt from false guilt. Real guilt. You intentionally hurt someone. False guilt. You set a healthy boundary. Most guilt after saying enough is false. Step 4. Release the false guilt. Once you see it's false, release it. I'm not responsible for their feelings. I'm responsible for my well-being. Thomas's story. Thomas left a 20-year toxic friendship. Step 1. I felt terrible guilt, like I was betraying him. Step 2. But I examined the guilt. Where did it come from? From him. He always made me feel guilty for having boundaries. Step 3. I realized this is false guilt. I did nothing wrong. I set a healthy boundary. Step 4. And I released it. I'm not responsible for his inability to respect boundaries. 6 months later, the guilt was completely gone. And in its place, peace. The obstacles to saying enough. There are 3 main obstacles. Obstacle 1. External pressure. Other people will pressure you to go back. Give them another chance. You're being too harsh. Think about, stand firm. Your well-being is more important than their comfort. Obstacle 2. Your own doubt. You'll doubt yourself. Maybe I was wrong? Maybe I should go back? Maybe it wasn't that bad. Remember why you left. Write down the reasons. Read them when you doubt. Obstacle 3. Loneliness. You'll feel lonely, especially at first, because you lost something, even if it was toxic. But loneliness is temporary, and it's better than toxicity. Catherine's story. Catherine left a codependent relationship. Obstacle 1. Everyone told me to give him another chance, that I was being too harsh. But I stood firm. I knew what I'd experienced. Obstacle 2. I doubted myself 1,000 times. Maybe I was wrong. But I read my journal, the pages where I documented the abuse, and I remembered. Obstacle 3. The loneliness was brutal. I cried every night for the first few months. But slowly, loneliness turned into solitude, and solitude into peace. 2 years later, I met someone healthy, and the relationship is completely different. How to know if you're healing. Ask yourself these 3 questions. Question 1. Do you have more energy? Do you feel more alive, more vital? If yes, you're healing. Question 2. Can you breathe? Do you feel like you can breathe again? Has the pressure lifted? If yes, you're healing. Question 3. Are you returning to yourself? Are you doing things you used to love? Are you becoming who you really are? If yes, you're healing. David's story. David left a toxic family environment. Question 1. Yes, I have more energy than I've had in years. I feel alive. Question 2. Yes, I can breathe. The constant pressure is gone. Question 3. Yes, I'm playing music again, something I hadn't done in 10 years. I'm healing. And more than that, I'm living. The invitation. Saying enough is possible, but it requires courage, conscious courage, consistent courage, brave courage. Are you ready? Are you ready to see the toxicity? Are you ready to find the courage? Are you ready to say, enough? If so, life is waiting for you. Not a perfect life, but your life. Not a life without pain, but a life with freedom. Not an easy life, but an authentic life. Now let me tell you the deepest truth about saying enough. The truth that changes everything. It's not just about leaving something. Here's what most people don't understand. Saying enough isn't just about leaving something. It's about reclaiming yourself. The energy that returns isn't just energy. It's your life, your soul, your essence. The truth about recovery. Recovery isn't easy. It's the deepest work you'll do. Because you're not just leaving a situation. You're dismantling the patterns that kept you there. The pattern of people-pleasing, of self-betrayal, of tolerating the intolerable. But that's the path to true freedom. Sarah's story. Sarah spent 30 years pleasing others. My whole life, I said yes when I wanted to say no, she said. I asked, what changed you? A health crisis, she said. My body said enough before I could. So she began the work. Not the work of leaving a situation, the work of dismantling the pattern. Therapy, body work, boundary setting, daily practice. It was the hardest year of my life, she said, but also the most liberating. And when she met James, something was different. I felt the old impulse to please him, to betray myself. But this time, I said enough. Not to him, to myself. And the relationship is different, because I'm different. The 3 stages of recovery. Every recovery goes through 3 stages. Stage 1. Separation, 0 to 6 months. First, you must physically separate. Leave the situation. Create distance. Set boundaries. This stage is painful because you're losing the familiar, but it's necessary. Stage 2. Detoxification, 6 to 18 months. Next comes detoxification. Your body and mind detoxify from the toxicity. You feel everything: the pain, the anger, the grief. This stage is intense. Many people want to go back here. But if you stay in detoxification, something emerges. Stage 3. Reconstruction, 18 plus months. Finally, you reconstruct. You don't go back to who you were. You become who you're meant to be. New patterns solidify. New boundaries become natural. This is the stage where recovery completes. Michael's story of recovery. Michael went through all 3 stages after leaving a cult. The first year was separation, he said. I physically left. I cut contact. It was terrifying. The cult was my family, my identity. The second year was detoxification. I started feeling everything: anger at the manipulation, grief for the lost years. I almost went back, many times, because the detoxification was too painful. But he stayed in detoxification, and in the third year, something emerged. I started reconstructing, Michael said. Not who the cult wanted me to be, who I really am. Now, 5 years later, I'm free, truly free. The deepest purpose of saying enough. Here's the deepest purpose. Saying enough exists to reclaim yourself, not to punish others, to liberate yourself. Every enough is a declaration that you matter, that your life matters, that your soul matters. The 3 gifts of saying enough. Gift 1, self-respect. Saying enough gives you self-respect, not others' respect, your own. You respect yourself because you finally protected yourself. Gift 2, clarity. Saying enough gives you clarity. You see who you really are, what you value, what you won't tolerate. That clarity is power. Gift 3, freedom. Saying enough gives you freedom. Not freedom from pain, freedom to choose consciously, to live authentically, to be yourself. Rachel's story. Rachel received all 3 gifts. Saying enough gave me self-respect, she said. For the first time in my life, I protected myself. It gave me clarity. I see who I am, what I value, what I won't tolerate. And it gave me freedom. I'm no longer trapped in the people-pleasing pattern. Now I choose consciously, from integrity. And that freedom changed everything. How to work with the underlying patterns. Here's how to work with the patterns that kept you tolerating. Step 1. Identify the pattern. What pattern kept you there? People-pleasing? Fear of abandonment? Need for approval? Name the pattern. That's the first step. Step 2. Trace the origin. Where did this pattern come from? What childhood experience created it? The origin reveals the path to healing. Step 3. Feel the wound. Don't avoid it. Feel it fully. The pain, the sadness, the anger. Feeling is the path to healing. Step 4. Reparent the wound. Give the wounded self what it didn't receive: approval, love, protection. Not from others, from yourself. Step 5. create new patterns. Once you've healed the wound, create new patterns. Patterns of healthy boundaries, self-respect, authenticity. William's story. William worked with his people-pleasing pattern. Step 1. My pattern is people-pleasing, betraying myself to avoid conflict. Step 2. It came from my childhood. My mother was volatile. I learned to keep the peace at any cost. Step 3. I felt the pain. The 8-year-old boy who didn't feel safe being himself. Step 4. I told that boy, it's okay to be yourself. I'll protect you. Step 5. I created new patterns. Practice saying no. Practice boundaries. Practice authenticity. And when I integrated these steps, William said, the pattern lost its power. I no longer need to please everyone, because I please myself. The final truth about saying enough. Here's the final truth. Saying enough isn't the enemy, it's the teacher. It shows you where you need to heal, where you need to grow, where you need to reclaim. And when you do the work, life changes, not by finding the perfect situation, by becoming the person who doesn't tolerate toxicity. 3 final questions. Before we end, ask yourself. Question 1. Are you ready to see the pattern? Seeing the pattern is painful, because it means taking responsibility. Are you ready to see? Question 2. Are you ready to heal the wound? Healing the wound requires feeling the pain you've been avoiding. Are you ready to feel? Question 3. Are you ready to reclaim yourself? Reclaiming yourself means letting go of who you thought you should be. Are you ready to reclaim? Elizabeth's story. Elizabeth asked herself these questions, and the answer was clear. Yes, she said. I'm ready to see the pattern. I'm ready to heal the wound. I'm ready to reclaim myself. 2 years later, her life was completely different. And when I met Daniel, I felt the old impulse to betray myself. But this time, I chose differently. Not because Daniel was different, because I was different. And the relationship is different. It's not perfect, Elizabeth said, but it's real. It's not without conflict, but it has healthy boundaries. It's not without pain, but it has mutual respect. That's what saying enough means, she said. Not avoiding pain, reclaiming yourself. The final call. Enough is waiting for you. Waiting to be said, to be understood, to be lived. But it won't happen by itself. It requires courage, consciousness, commitment. Are you ready? If so, say enough. See the pattern. Heal the wound. Reclaim your life. And when you do, something changes. Not just the situation, you. Not just what you tolerate, who you are. Not just the toxicity, the person. And in that transformation, you find what you were looking for. Not a perfect life, an authentic life. Not the absence of pain, the presence of freedom. Not tolerance, self-respect. That's saying enough. That's recovery. That's living consciously.